What you don't want is for your kids to live in your shadow.
I grew up in a middle-class family, and my parents lost everything in 2008. So in my adult life, I've had to...
How do you set up the right processes for your kids to succeed in life and learn the character traits and learn the financial competencies? There's 2 rules for a healthy struggle. Number 1, I think every generation has the chance to be that power mover.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it stops with me. This generational curse, generational trauma, these issues, it stops with me. And that's just a decision.
What's going on, Wealth Builders? Today, I've got a man who has exited multiple companies, one of which had an IPO of over $100 million. Now his mission is to serve families and help teach kids and families financial literacy. They've served over 7 million families at dinner table. I have got Scott Donnell. What's up, man?
How you doing, buddy?
Good.
To see ya.
Well, I'm excited to talk about just how to raise kids with understanding money because I have 3 kids, 5 and under. Hopefully I have some more here, but I've always just wondered, man, like, how do you teach them skills and to earn things, especially, you know, for them, they're going to come up in a much more wealthy environment than I did and that many people do. But like, how do we start training our kids to be financially savvy from a young age, whether you're with wealth or without wealth?
Yeah, man. You just asked a behemoth of a question.
Yeah.
We're going to have to unpack this for a while, but I think a lot of people, what happens is, you know, we've been studying the top families in the world now for over a decade. And the moment you start to make it and you start covering the bills, making profit, getting wealth, building yourself up, especially like first gen wealth.
Yeah.
The number one thing that happens when they have kids is, I just want to give all my kids all the things I never had. I want to give my kids all the opportunities I never had. I don't want my kids to have to struggle the way I had to struggle. Those are like the top 3 things that most people say. And that comes from a place of love. But the problem is, how did you get to be who you are? Right?
Struggling.
How do you think you got here? Right? Struggle. Healthy. We call them healthy struggles.
Yeah.
And so if you bubble wrap your kids around wealth and it creates victimhood, it creates entitlement, it creates spoiling, it creates anxiety. If you don't have your kids actually go through these like processes to grow, then you're going to bubble wrap them their whole lives, and it's going to be right back to the same problem that you grew up with in one generation. That's the issue with all this.
Right.
So that's what most of my life is like helping families continually grow every generation. Not just with the wealth side. We got to talk about that a lot, but with the family mindsets and skill sets and values and beliefs, like all these things have to roll together. Because if you think your job as a parent is like literally just to like keep them safe, get them out of the house, and then die with as much stuff as you possibly can muster, you're going to ruin them.
Right. You're not teaching them any character.
No.
You're just providing, essentially.
Yeah. And kids, like, you know the Green family, the Hobby Lobby family? Yep. They're one of our 100 families that we've been studying for over a decade. So we got this huge group of some of the best families in the world that we've been searching for forever. And we study them, we interview them, we're friends with them, we learn about how they raise kids to blow by them, right? Because it's not about wealth, it's about how do you raise each generation to blow by you. That's true legacy to me. Well, he said something to me a few months ago. This is David Green. And he goes, every time you give your kids something that they didn't earn, you're robbing something from their future. And that really hits home for a lot of parents. Because I think a lot of parents think that successful parenting is providing everything my kids need, making sure they're comfortable, that they have all the opportunities, that I pay for all of the fun experiences and pay for all the things they need so that they never have to want, never have any issues. But that can lead down a crazy path.
Yeah, that's interesting because, I mean, for me, I grew up in a middle-class family and my parents lost everything in 2008. So we lost my childhood home I grew up in. They didn't have anything. They lost their businesses, jobs, all that. So in my adult life, I've had to, just provide. They provided for me, throughout as a kid and all that. But as an adult, they haven't been able to do much for me. And that's forced me to learn how to be a provider. It's forced me to learn how to not depend on anyone and build skills and all these things. And now for all the things I've built, like I have this sense of accomplishment that I've earned this.
Yep.
And I even think like, man, if I wanted my dream home, I don't want someone to just give it to me. Like I want to earn it. I want to know when I'm living in this thing that I earned it. And now that I'm in more wealthy circles, I've met people who come from wealth and they're kids of parents who have given them everything and they haven't had to earn it. And they just don't really have fulfillment and they have entitlement. They have all the things you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. 90% of generational wealth is gone by the grandkids. Just gone, pissed away. But what people don't study is what I study is what most people don't. What's underneath that 90% gone number, okay? Divorce, estrangement, addiction, violence, drug abuse, like basically victim mentality, lottery ticket syndrome. I mean, if you're just giving your kids all this stuff that they didn't earn, it's a glorified participation trophy. And they know they didn't earn it. And if kids aren't prepared for the wealth that they're getting, prepared for the assets that they're going to inherit or get, like you're giving them a catastrophe. And like Jordan Peterson said this one time, we were in a small group talking about this. He goes, do you know the only thing that keeps an addict out of the gutter? Being broke. And I think wealth makes you more of who you already are. And those that accumulate wealth by creating value and serving other people and going through the healthy struggles are formed and prepared for it. Those that are given it or handed it that aren't prepared for it, it makes them more of that.
Yeah.
And that's catastrophic.
Yeah.
So this is why we have to be really careful with how we're raising our kids. We have to think about this stuff ahead of time because the whole financial industry, by the way, and you're in this world, the whole financial world is like, my job is to secure, protect, and grow your assets until you die for future generations because that's your legacy.
Yeah.
And I go, that's not legacy. It's very different. Legacy is raising your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids to blow by you in all the ways that matter. That's legacy. In fact, you're going to ruin your legacy if you think that your job is just to secure, protect, and grow the wealth until you're dead.
Yeah.
Right, let me ask you a question. So if you could pass one of these three things on to your kids, what would it be? All your money and stuff, all your knowledge, or all of your experiences? Which one would you say is top?
2 and 3 are kind of, I feel like they're very similar. Like your experiences kind of give you your knowledge.
There you go. Right. So if that's what you said first, there's an entire financial industry that's like, no, your legacy is all about leaving as much stuff and assets and giving your kids that leg up. That's not a leg up, that's a handout.
Yeah.
So I think the conversation needs to happen. I don't believe you leave them nothing. That's not what I believe either. You know, I believe in heritage over inheritance. But, you know, it's an important thing to discuss with families because the marching orders in our culture is stabilize the family, grow as much wealth as you can, get it diversified, get it secured, get into all these things so that your kids have a great future. Your grandkids are taken care of. They'll never have to, worry. And I'm like, that's not what you're supposed to do.
Right. So, we're talking about, we don't want to just hand them a whole bunch of money. By the way, you can cut it right here. If you turn that black knob, it'll fix that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good.
It just keeps like slowly sinking on me.
It always does that.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what tightens it. Yeah.
I think we're good.
All right.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Oh, I forgot what I was just saying. Okay. So we're talking about we don't want to just leave them with a bunch of stuff, right? We want to leave them with, is the answer knowledge or experience, or is it both?
I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
Okay.
But what I hear 99% of the time is experiences.
Yeah.
Right? Because the knowledge
memories.
Kids think in story.
Yeah.
They learn, all lessons are learned in story. Jesus spoke in parables.
Yep.
Right? Story brand. The best companies share the best stories. So I think experience is where that's what we should be focusing on passing down.
Yeah.
That's what gives your kids a heritage. That's what gives them a last name that means something. That's where they actually get information to stick in their mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that.
And the knowledge comes through that, right?
Yeah. And I think that I don't want my kids to just know stuff and be smart. I'm really more concerned about their character. And that comes down to faith and everything else, right? Like, it's like, man, if I can have, in the Bible, it doesn't talk about having the knowledge of Jesus, but we're to have the character of Jesus. That's what we're pursuing.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, if I can pass down, man, just having great character and discernment and all those things, that will inevitably lead to everything else in their life being good. So it's just like...
So how do you do it?
Yeah. So what do you think?
I mean, if you look at scripture, how is character built? Struggle.
Yeah.
Creates perseverance.
So I just go
Creates
send them
character.
to boot camp or what? What do I do?
No, I don't think tough love is the way to do it.
Okay.
So I define healthy. I think all kids should be going through a lot of really healthy struggle. And entitlement, this is what everyone's worried about, right? Kids today are day trading victimhood and entitlement like it's water, like it's currency. You go on social media and all you have to do is be a victim or be entitled about something, and that's how you get followers and likes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, culture will breed entitlement and victimhood if we don't do something in our home with our kids.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Amazon Prime, one click, it's coming tonight.
Yeah.
Social media, I get anything I want, dopamine hit right away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's no more waiting till like next week's show at 6:30, whatever. Kids get everything they want right now, right? And so that's just entitlement like crazy. And so we have to be able to set up these systems in the home, which is what we do with families. We train this of how do you set up the right processes for your kids to succeed in life and learn the character traits and learn the financial competencies. And so it's about healthy struggles. And so there's 2 rules for a healthy struggle. Number 1, you're on their team.
Yeah.
Me versus you is tough love. So it's neglect. It can be abusive. It can be traumatic. But if I'm on your team, right, and I'm helping you through these things, I'm not solving your problems, but I'm with you and encouraging you and coaching you. Like, as a parent, that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, it's a safe place, right? It's a safe environment. You're not throwing them to the wolves and you're like 50-50, you're going to get super hurt. I'm saying healthy struggles are like, how do you learn emotional skills and character? And any athlete or academic knows this, right? Mm-hmm. Any entrepreneur knows this.
Yep.
You got to go through those healthy struggles because that's the only way to be refined and learn the capabilities to get confidence.
Yep.
Right? That's the only way to do it. That's why, you can't pat your kid on the back every day and be like, you're smart, you're pretty. You're smart, you're pretty, you're good at soccer. You're good at writing.
It's like, yo, you got to work on this.
That's outer confidence.
Yeah.
That doesn't last. Inner confidence comes from growing a tool belt of capabilities and skills that add value in the world, and those come from healthy struggles. So, my definition of entitlement is this: a consistent process where kids have problems solved for them over time. That is what breeds entitlement, right? That's how kids get to the point of being like, I expect this. I deserve this. You're supposed to get me this. Of course you should pay for this stuff, mom and dad. Of course I deserve the front of the line. I shouldn't have to struggle through this. You solved it last time, solve it again. It's about problem solving. And so many parents think that loving their kids means solving all the problems for their kids. They fight the teacher for better grades. What they do is they grade the stuff the night before so that their kids never miss a mark. Right? This happens all the time.
Yeah.
They'll bring lunch if the kid forgets. They bring the sports clothes the moment the kid, messed up. They fight the coach for more playing time, right?
How do you know the line though? Because okay, my kid messed up. Do I bail him out because I'm a loving, forgiving parent?
Yeah.
Or do I let them suffer the consequence of being an idiot?
That's the dance, right? I think that tough love has no place in what we're teaching.
Okay.
Good luck, kid. The key is to capture the kid's heart and build a relationship.
Good, because most of my love is tough. My kids are young, so they don't have tough love yet.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 5 years old, 4 years, so it's like they haven't had to go through it yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just as an athlete, it's like, bro, this is what it is.
Yeah.
You ain't playing today.
Yeah.
You screwed up.
The main thing that families have to think about is, how can I help my kids learn to solve their own problems?
Okay.
That is a loving thing to do.
For sure.
But
I don't think anyone would disagree with that. That's not controversial.
Right. But where's the line?
Right. That's the hard part.
I think the line is, what can I do in this situation to help my kid learn more capabilities and get more confidence to create more value?
Let's just take a real world example instead of like, let's not talk in just ideas, but let's use that
I'll give
example.
you one right now. You want one?
Well, no, let's use the example of kid forgot his cleats today.
Yep.
What do? The first time, do we forgive him and help him out? And if he screws up the second time, he's on his own? Like, how do we do this?
Yeah, I mean, is there a consequence to it? Right?
You can't play the game. You got no shoes.
Yeah. I mean, co-host of my show, Chad Willardson, if his kids don't go through their start of the day in the morning, they're going to be late for school and miss stuff.
Yeah.
Because they didn't start their day off the right way. His kids have been late to school several times because they didn't do that.
Yep.
It's their own consequence, right? If you have to drive to school because they forgot stuff all the time, you're just solving their problems for them.
Right.
You will do everything for your kids until they learn to do it themselves. And consequences are really the only way that kids actually learn this stuff. And so, yes, I think there are some times where you can be like, all right, I'm helping you out this time, but here's the consequence of it. But a lot of times parents are like, well, this is the last time, or you're going to have a timeout, or there's going to be a consequence later, and then they just get exhausted, right? I think it's really important to hold that line with our kids as much as we can, because that's how they learn.
Yeah.
Right? And so often in the home, parents get exhausted by this, especially moms. They get exhausted reminding the kids over and over and over to do stuff. Mm-hmm. Pick up the toys, get your clothes in here, you got to clean your room, the bed, homework. Like, they're just reminding. They're like professional reminders.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting for parents. I think kids will expect you to do everything for them until they learn to do it themselves.
Right.
So I think that's the thinking. You know, I was just one of the dads in our coaching group, because Dinner Table is basically one big coaching group. We teach our strategies for legacy, and we help families through all this. And one of the dads had an 18-year-old son that was wanting to still live in the house. And because of one of our systems, we did something called a pay-to-a-point plan. Okay, it's one of our strategies, right? So you're deciding, how are we doing how are we doing school? How are we going to do car? How are we doing college? How are we going to do their first home, or when they get married or have a kid? Like, what do we want to leave to them versus leave in them, right? You go through these conversations. It's awesome. And after that conversation, he realized that the appropriate next step was to write his son a letter and sit down and basically say, hey, in 3 weeks, you're on your own. And I'm going to back you and coach you and help you, but you're on your own.
Yeah.
And he got a letter 2 weeks after his son moved out that said, thank you, I never would have done that on my own. I already feel more confident and I'm learning all these things. I needed that. Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of conversations that I think have to happen.
Yeah.
In the home. So
what do you do when a kid isn't figuring it out?
Well, there's a lot of reasons where this can happen. Well, there's a lot of ways to unpack that. Are you talking about they're just not wanting to, like they're lazy and
the
checked
rebellion?
Out? Yeah.
You're like, yo, hey, if you don't do your homework, you know, you're going to get bad grades. And then they just are like, yeah, whatever. I want to go play Call of Duty.
Yeah. This comes down to what we call value creation mindset.
Okay.
Can I unpack this for a minute?
Okay.
It's the number one strategies of all the best families in the world. You ready for this? Because if you do this right, it solves that issue.
Okay.
The best families in the world, this is the number one strategy that we teach out of our 18, okay? Because we've been learning from the top 100 families in the world for over a decade. All of them said this: we want to teach our kids to create value first in the world, not money. See, money is a store of value created. So we have to take it back a whole step, okay? Because kids don't think about money the same way that adults do, okay? They don't have the incentive structures. And money is just a tool, right? It's a store of value.
Yep.
That's created. But if you make money everything with your kids, it becomes identity. If it's just money, 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 we're talking about this, we're buying this, look at this, then it becomes achievement, status, identity, okay? And that's a keeping up with the Joneses fight for the rest of their life.
Yep.
If you see money as bad and you never talk about it, we don't talk about it in the home, it's the biggest fight, then it's a poverty mindset. Because money's not good or bad, but money's a tool. It's a store of value. So what all these families did is they went back a step and they were like, all right, we're going to teach our kids to create value in the world, and then it'll fix all the other issues. And so value, there's 3 types of value that you can create in any situation. You ready for these? Material value, which is money's usually the result. You're solving problems. You're getting wants and needs for other people. You're doing gigs around the house. You're finding ways to solve issues, right?
Yeah.
That's material value created.
Yep.
There's emotional value, which is how good of a friend you are, how good of a sibling, how you think, how you feel, how you help other people think and feel better. And then there's spiritual value, how you connect to God, right? How you get outside of your own ego and pride and love other people, right? Faith, hope, and love, and connecting others to something above themselves, to God. Those are the three types of value. And if you can teach your children to become value hunters, to like have a lens to look at the world around them in terms of what value can I create in this situation, everything starts to change. Like everything.
Yeah.
And so you don't get those issues when you do that. You don't get the issues of kids being spoiled or anxious or lazy and checked out or a victimhood mindset, right? You're teaching them to find in any situation ways to create value in those three buckets. And it frees them from all these other issues. So if you've got a kid who's just checked out, and they're like, I don't care what you do to me, I don't care what consequences you give me, who cares? That's a kid who doesn't have the capabilities and confidence to create value.
Yeah.
They don't have that mindset anymore. They've never had it. And most likely it's because they've never actually gone through any healthy struggles to learn the capabilities and confidence.
Yeah. So do you think that, I mean, I probably know the answer, but like these kids that don't want to do anything, let's call them lazy, rebellious, whatever, all of that is stemming...
Or employees, just so you know. All this stuff applies to teams and companies.
Okay.
Like, yeah, keep going.
Yep. All of that stems from how they were brought up and their perception of value creation.
Yep. All of it.
Yeah. But like, how do you fix that now? Because people are listening to this right now and they're like, dude, my teenager, they're like this. And yeah, we never taught them the right things.
Yeah.
What do you do now?
You know what? The number one question I used to get asked, because I've helped, I've helped about 7 million families through all of our companies, okay? Dinner Table is just getting going in the last couple of years. We've served tens of thousands and it's just starting to scale. But all the other companies that we've created is about 7 million now, okay? The number one question I used to always get asked was, hey, help me teach my kids about money. That was always the number one thing because I'm the financial literacy expert. But now, you know what I hear the most? Where were you 20 years ago?
Right.
It's too late for me.
Yep.
And I say, nope, that's the biggest lie. That's the biggest lie. Our strategies for legacy are a recipe for the family. And it does not matter which age your kids are, or maybe you have grandkids, maybe your kids are grown, maybe you're in your 70s. You put together our strategies and this stuff just starts to transform over time. I've seen 28-year-olds with parents that are like, my kid's checked out, they're in debt, they don't care anymore. They think we're in late stage capitalism. They threw away the family values long ago. And you start implementing these strategies of legacy. And then weeks go by, days, months, and all of a sudden stuff starts to shift.
Yeah.
So it's never too late is the point I'm trying to make.
Yep.
Like it is never too late. That's a lie from the pit of hell. You just put the recipe in place and over time it starts to transform your family for good.
Okay.
So if you've got a teenager, for instance, okay, and you have a lot of conflict over chores, they're checked out, they're always asking you for the money and stuff.
Yep.
Constantly asking, well, they're not going through their own, healthy struggles.
Well, they got victim mentality. Like, I am struggling. I'm bullied.
Yeah. Well, are you a victim or a victor? Right?
Right.
Are you a value creator? Our family has certain values that our kids abide by.
Yeah.
Right? Donnells do hard things. Donnells do the right thing. Donnells make things better. So we have clear values in our family that our 4 kids say every night at dinner. You want to know what it is?
Okay.
Faith, family, and fish. So we love God, we back our family, and fish, which stands for fun and adventure, integrity, service, and hard work. See, our kids know exactly what it means to be a Donnell. And we talk about it every night at dinner. What are our values? My 3-year-old says it. Faith, family, fish. And then we're looking for stories throughout the day to celebrate with our kids how they're living out faith, family, and fish. And so they're getting this identity in our family of what it means to be a Donnell. And it just collapses all those issues. They just get erased.
Yeah.
Because they know what it means to be a Donnell. They know what our answer is going to be before it happens.
Yeah.
And so it really keeps them from being checked out, from being lazy, from being entitled.
Right.
They know that if they come to me and ask for money and stuff, that I have a whole menu of gigs that they can be doing around the house at all times to earn. We call that our family economy system that we teach. And our kids never ask us for money and stuff ever again. No conflict over chores, which we don't call them chores. So yeah, we have a system in the home where there's no choice for entitlement or victimhood.
Okay, so once again, going back to the person who has, they weren't trained up in this.
Yep.
They've got older kids who have been mismanaged for this time. It is what it is.
Yep.
So we're going to say, hey, it's not too late.
Not too late.
Let's incorporate our family, I don't know, motto.
Yep.
And our values. Let's create this gig system.
Yep.
You want something, earn it. Essentially.
My 3 best tips for this would be our top 3 strategies that we give.
Okay.
Because that's what we tell people is like, look, just come and learn this stuff and start implementing, and we make it super easy that you can explain it to a 5-year-old. Okay. The first one is the value creation thinking. Okay. And I, after we wrote our book, Value Creation Kid, Sharon Lecter came to me. She's like the godmother of financial literacy. She was actually part of Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. She helped do that book. She actually helped come out with the whole cash flow game. She's kind of the voice behind all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came to me after we wrote the book and she said, Scott, this value creative idea, you have no idea. When she was a kid, she said, my dad asked me one question every single day and it changed my life. You want to know what it was? What value did you create for someone else today? He asked her that every day growing up. And she said, it completely transformed my life to make me who I am today. And so that is the starting point. Okay, that's a simple question you can ask your kids at night or during dinner or after prayers. Give them the lens to look at the world in terms of how can I add value in this situation? Okay, that's a critical piece. The second piece is...
so that's one of the strategies.
That's one of the strategies.
Just ask your kids, hey, how'd you generate value today?
Yeah, and
others?
we give tools and strategies on how they can help their kids create value in those 3 ways: material value, emotional value, and spiritual value. So we just have like
just give me like an example of how. So material value would that be like giving someone something?
Gigs around the house is a great way to do it. Setting up the home economy system, the family economy. Emotional value, understanding what it means to be a sibling, a leader on the team, a great classmate, and taking action every day to be a better friend and sibling and classmate. Right?
Yep.
Spiritual value is ways that they can be applying the things they're learning about God and loving others and the fruits of the Spirit in their life, like immediately. And it's just a system for them to keep them accountable and check in and celebrate together as they grow.
Yeah.
Because when a kid creates value with their own brain and their own hands and feet, it lights them on fire. Way more than you making them do stuff and pushing them to do stuff and reminding them to do stuff. See, the goal is intrinsic motivation. And kids are self-motivated to do this once they start to see the fruits of it.
Yeah. So tell me about the gig system. How does that work?
Yeah, so this is we call it the family economy system. It's our answer to the allowance chores nightmare, because allowance is socialism. Okay. Sorry if you do that with your kids.
My kids are too young. I don't even know what it is.
A lot of people are like, wait, what?
No, I'm lucky because I can now, I got, like I said, young kids, so I can do it right from the get-go.
Yeah, you're gonna crush it. And we start with our kids as young as 2 years old with this stuff, with the quarter system. So this is what we learned again from the top families in the world. They basically clearly said, look, allowance is codependency. Your kids should never get the same amount of money every week just by existing. That actually, in our studies as a company, allowance is linked to a lack of motivation and an aversion to work.
Yeah.
Not the stuff you want to teach your kids.
It's entitlement.
It's entitlement. But then some parents go, well, don't worry, my kids, I make them do chores and then they get an allowance. Well, okay, half those chores you should never tie to money. We call those expectations. That's your role in our family. That has nothing to do with money. This is like, you should never pay your kids to make their bed, clean their room, do the dishes and trash, homework after school, be kind to their sibling. Like that has nothing to do with money. It's just their role in the family. The other half of those chores, you should have a menu of ways they can earn by creating value around the house, right? And then they have an unlimited opportunity to earn, right? That's why the chores allowance is like 100-year-old archaic thinking that actually doesn't teach the kids financial skills or value creation. And then the worst of all is when parents are like, don't worry, I don't do the allowance. I just make my kids do the chores like they're told. Well, now you're paying for everything. And they're not learning anything about money or financial skills or budgeting. So our answer to this is something we call the family economy. So there's 3 E's: expectations, expenses, and extra pay opportunities. That's it. Expenses or expectations is the first one. These are the things you don't pay for in the home. Your kids know that's just the role in the family. We're doing this stuff because they're a Pineda.
Yep.
Right? The second E is expenses. Most parents have never even thought of this one. Without expenses, most kids have no motive to earn or make money or do anything.
Right.
They don't have a motive. Only 5% of kids have the entrepreneurial mind where they're like, where am I making money, Dad? Where am I making money, Mom? How am I creating value? They're just born with it in their DNA.
Yeah.
95% of kids don't have that, and they need to be trained to become more entrepreneurial. So by giving kids expenses to be in charge of, it's an incredible, incredible thing to do in the home. It teaches them how to budget, the price of goods, teaches them trade-offs between goods. It teaches them delayed gratification. Like all this stuff is learned by saying, hey, we're not going to be in charge of these few things anymore. You're going to be in charge of it. And so these are things like social outings with friends, a toy. If they're going to play basketball, have them buy the basketball. You can pay for the other stuff, but they're in charge of their cleats or 1 or 2 things with every sport or extracurricular. Now they're going to own that activity, right? And then if you pass off expenses, you just saved yourself a bunch of money every month to then pay them to do extra gigs, right? So the gigs are the 30 extra pay. It's just a whole host of things around the home that they can do to earn funds that they can use to cover their expenses. Now they're learning value creation, okay? And what you want to get to is a situation where the kids are hunting around your house and in the neighborhood for ways to create value.
So like what are some things they can do?
So it starts with like sweep the garage, right? Laundry, clean a bathroom, organize a closet, stuff in the yard, pack for the trip.
Is there a certain dollar amount you would put to these based on the family's wealth or like what the job is actually worth?
I'd say, there's we have tons of families doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. And different families have different mindsets around it. But generally speaking, the more expenses you pass off to them, the better you should pay them so that they understand their value that's being created. Because you were gonna pay for all those things anyway. You might as well pay your kids real value.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, do you pay them the true market value of the job they've done?
Yeah.
Or,
Well, we do because our kids are in charge of hundreds and hundreds of dollars of expenses now. And they're under 10, right? Every month. And we were gonna pay for that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So I want my kids to understand their value, right? Some parents are like, no, we just do a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there, keep it simple. We just want them to get simple toys and simple expenses so they can start to learn. That's fine. But I want families to consistently grow because this is how we're raising adults, by the way. This is how you match the environment of when they're off in the real world. This is how you don't have the failure to launch syndrome or the issues when they're growing up, okay? So it's about teaching them to create value in the home. But there's a special part of those gigs that we realized that makes it where the kids are on fire, okay? We call them brain gigs, okay? So the things I mentioned first were action gigs, where you're using your hands and feet, sweep the garage, make a meal, clean a bathroom, organize a closet, whatever. That's maybe worth a few bucks here and there. Brain gigs are what make this super fun for the kids, and then they just want to go crazy and do a ton of stuff, okay? Brain gigs are where kids learn to use their brain to create value rather than their hands and feet. Because that's what you and I do, right? You're using your brain to create value in your work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Why aren't we teaching this to our kids? So a brain gig is a way that a kid can earn a few bucks by a podcast, a book, an article, a TED Talk, right? No sugar for a week, no screen time for a month. What about like these? I would pay my kid $5 to read a Tuttle Twins book. I would rather pay my daughter Reagan to read a book than do something, a chore around the house or sweep the garage, because she's learning so much more with her mind, right? Like this summer, we paid her $5 for every book she read, and these are like little Tuttle Twins books on liberty and entrepreneurship and civic duty and free markets and all these things. She would tell us 2 things she learned and 1 thing she's going to apply to her life. That's all. She got her $5. She did 50 books this summer.
Wow.
And it was a blast to having these conversations with her. So valuable for her future. And we have hundreds of these incredible brain gigs that teach kids capabilities and skills and give them confidence for the real world. That's way over and above like just normal chores, right? Like you shouldn't even say the word chores anymore in your home because kids just connect that to negative and useless, and you have fights over it and tons of reminding them and conflict. What you should think about is skills building, right? Chris Baden, one of our good buddies, he's brilliantly said that, like, hey, we don't do chores at home, we build skills. That's a brilliant way to think about it. And so if I want my kids to get a tool belt of incredible skills, I want them to be reading books and learning podcasts and YouTube videos and articles. And here's one. My daughter planned our family trip this summer.
How'd that go?
She saved us $2,000.
Wow.
She's 7 at the time. Flights, 3 flights, get the best deal. Are we going to rent, Turo, Uber, like drive? Where are we going to stay? Where are we going to eat? What are we going to do? She planned the whole thing. She learned like 10 capabilities.
Yeah.
We paid her like $50. She saved us all this money. And most importantly, she owned the trip. She loved it. It's going to be a core memory for the rest of her life. Like that's what happens when you get kids to learn these things on their own rather than just do everything for them. That's a brain gig for us.
Yeah.
And there's tons of those. And that's really the thinking of these top families. They're like, we're going to build skills. Because we know that schools aren't teaching all the right stuff, right? You can't outsource your parenting.
Yeah.
You should outsource business, automate, eliminate, delegate. Can't do that in the home. You got to bring this stuff around the dinner table. So that's the point.
Right. So obviously we want to teach them skills. We want to make them understand the mentality of, hey, if I create value, I earn money. Yep. That's how this world works. What else do parents not know?
Well, the third of the three, like the value creation and the family economy, the third one is this heritage over inheritance thinking. I would actually say this, heritage before inheritance.
Yeah, explain what you think heritage is.
Because people go, you think I should leave my kids nothing and just like die penniless? Well, there's definitely certain people that have said that, right? And everyone goes, what? And it's a big old fight. I'm not saying you leave your kids nothing. What I'm saying is heritage has to be the priority or else anything you leave them will ruin the legacy. Heritage is a last name that means something. Heritage are the values of the family, the character traits that you're talking about, what it means to have your last name, building that inside of your family and clearly giving your kids a roadmap on how to take it and run with it and blow by you. That's heritage to us. So values, we actually help families in our workshops and our coaching groups at dinner table. We help them craft their values, the crest of the family, what it means to be in their family, but then also how to pass it on to the kids, right? Like walking through your halls, it's been awesome to see like all the values are on the wall, all the things are on the wall. Well, with kids, it's a little bit different. Kids don't think in terms of a mission statement on a wall. Kids think in terms of story. In 30 years, our kids are not going to be sitting around the dinner table or the campfire pointing at the mission statement on the wall. They're going to be telling stories. And so the key for us as parents is to craft stories of your heritage, where you came from, how you met their mom, where your ancestors came from, and then you tell the values of the family through those stories. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's how these things get passed on from generation to generation.
That makes sense. It's funny you brought that up because I was literally thinking about it. I was like, wouldn't that just be my core values anyways for how we run the company? Because those are core to me in what I believe, And
Yep.
they're the same values I'd want for my kids, serve others, play fair, train daily, no ego.
Yep.
Those are our 4 core values. And then faith oversees all of it.
Yep. I think so many people can take a playbook from good mission and culture in companies and apply that to their house.
Yeah.
People just don't think that way. Like we're with so many entrepreneurs that don't think that way about their family. What if your family is your most important investment? If it truly is your most important investment, then you need to invest in the family. You need to think about it. Take all your best business principles and entrepreneurial lessons and apply them to your family. Mm-hmm. And I think, if you can't explain something to a 5-year-old, you don't know what you're talking about. This is why I love working with kids.
Yeah.
I love working with families because it makes me clarify message so much more clearly. And that's why mission, vision, values, It's told through stories. If you want to kill a company, get rid of the chief storyteller. If you want to kill a family legacy, get rid of the chief storyteller. I mean, why do you think we're so close to World War III in our world? It's because all the World War II vets are dying. The stories aren't being told. The new generations coming up aren't feeling it and seeing it. They're not being told the truth of what happened, what was that, 90 years ago, 80 years ago. They don't even believe that kind of evil is around, much less a dictator that could do this to the world. That's why we're so close to World War III. In Deuteronomy, there's a verse that says, and there came a generation, this is about the Israelites, and there came a generation after them that knew neither God nor what he had done for their ancestors.
Right.
They just forgot it all. The stories weren't passed down. The parents screwed up heritage. They didn't pass down the stories of what God had done and built in that faith, built in that resiliency, and built in that God first mentality. Why do you think they wandered so long in the desert and all these kings came and messed everything up? They messed up heritage. That's why this is such a critical piece, man. So I think the best takeaway for families is become really good storytellers that have all the principles and values of your family baked in. Because if you don't, your kids are going to translate those stories into something negative. They're going to change the stories. They're not going to remember them the right way. So get really clear on what your family stands for, and then hunt for stories of your kids living it out. We celebrate at dinner every night. We have this rule. Until further notice, celebrate everything. Because that's how kids learn, through fun and real life experience. Only those two things. So we celebrate every night when we're having dinner. We're talking about the day and what they've done to display our family values. And they're talking about what each other did and what they saw. And we're doing cheering and power claps. And we need to be hunting for those stories within our kids and make those the family stories that we tell over the years. Too many families, dude, they tell the embarrassing, they tell the cut you down stories.
The gossip.
Especially if someone's successful. Especially if somebody's the power mover, successful cousin or sibling, then the other members of the family want to just cut them down. They want to tell stories that embarrass them or make them feel less than. It doesn't happen if you get the heritage stuff right. You need to squelch that in your family. You can't tolerate the little bad things, the little evils in a family.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about that this morning.
Yep.
So that's why this stuff is so critical. And we call it roots and wings, okay? Your kids need roots and wings. Kids are 5 times more likely to go off into the world carrying the values of their family if they know exactly where they come from, what the family means, what they stand for, the values and character traits that matter the most, and they consistently build that identity inside of their kids. They literally have a rudder to go through the world. 5 times more likely to carry it on than those who don't have that rudder. So it's roots in the family and wings to soar.
So, if I'm trying to implement this in my family, you have faith, family, and fish, which is a form of core values, essentially.
Yep.
Would I keep my same exact core values and try to just story tell those core values to them? Because I don't know that I would change anything.
That actually means that you're pretty transparent in your life, your faith, your work, your family, your heart. That's actually really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Yes, I would take that.
Okay.
I would literally take those core ideas and figure out ways to tell stories in your ancestry, your wife's family, your childhood, your first businesses, how you met, and tell those stories. Kids love hearing stories of their parents and grandparents and ancestors. We have this story that we tell our kids. My ancestors, the Donnell family, Camilla Donnell, in the 1850s, came across the Oregon Trail from Ohio.
She's from the video game.
Yes, died of dysentery. We have her journal.
Okay.
She wrote a journal of the entire trip. It's a 100-page journal. It is crazy. And there's stories of faith, family, fish all throughout it. We came up with that acronym because our kids love it and they can remember it.
It's easy, yeah.
But all those stories you can find throughout it.
Yeah.
And crazy stories. One of the members of the tribe of the band took the last bullets. He was 17 years old. He went off to go kill a buffalo because they were all starving to death. He found one 3 days journey away. And as he's coming back with the meat, wolves stalk him and track him up a tree.
Yeah.
And he has to like drop most of the meat, and he shoots all the wolves, and they're eating each other and gnawing at the tree over 3 nights. Like, it's crazy. We tell our kids these stories and they love it because they feel this identity around it.
What if, so like even we're guilty of this. And once again, we have young kids, so we haven't really thought about doing all these things yet. But, family heritage, it's not something that, I don't know, something I've valued per se. Like, clearly I want to leave a legacy and all those things, but it's like, this is my grandpa, this is what he did, this is, your great grandpa. I don't know anything beyond great, you know. But my dad came from the Philippines, my mom was born in Arizona, here we are. It's just like we definitely need to do a better job of explaining our family history and valuing it. I also just think about other people and how maybe their family history isn't great.
Yeah.
Yep. These are, your 3 divorced.
Yep.
Whatever. This is that. Yep. What happens when you got a rough family history?
You get to redeem it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think you're redeeming your last name as you go through this process. You're going to have your last name for the rest of your life. And I think, because so many parents we're working with have this, they're like, I got crazy past.
Yeah.
There's divorce, there's murder,
Yep.
there's drug stuff,
Yep.
there's, estrangement and sickness, and like, I'm just trying to get away from it. Well, you can't get away from your last name. And you get to be what our friend Ed talks about, the power mover.
Mm-hmm.
See, one of the strategies we teach is every generation needs to become the power mover in their legacy. You want your kids to blow by you. Like, you're in the Pinto, they're in the Jaguar racing by you on the highway, okay? What you don't want is for your kids to live in your shadow. So we want every generation to take that mantle, take that baton, and just run with it, right? And so I think every generation has the chance to be that power mover. You're like, hey, it stops with me. This generational curse, generational trauma, these issues, it stops with me.
Yeah.
And I get to be that power mover in my family line that redeems the name and transforms it. And that's just a decision. That is a today decision that people make. And so many people don't even think about that, but they carry this baggage.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000 pounds on their back till they just drop it and decide.
This is somewhat off topic, but it makes me think, like, as somebody who is so focused on heritage,
Yep.
Are you an advocate of having a lot of kids?
Maybe not like Elon does it, but heck yeah.
Okay.
I mean, not 20 kids with 15 women, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think in 20 years, we're going to have a population crisis, underpopulation.
Yeah.
And I think kids are a crown of splendor. They're arrows in your quiver, as the Bible talks about, like to launch into the world. Like, there's no greater joy than that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's an amazing, amazing thing. I think, have a bunch of kids.
Okay.
In fact, all of my friends that have more than 5 kids, I know this is crazy to hear, especially all the young people that listen to this, the young 20s and 30s folks. All of my friends that have 5 or more kids say that the moment they hit 5 kids, it got easier than 4. 6 kids was easier than 3. 7 was easier than 2, 8.
All right, I was debating if my wife was going to watch this, but now she can.
It's true. See, what happens is the more kids you have, the more systems that you put in the home, and the more they're literally helping each other. They're raising each other. They're teaching each other.
That's what families used to do.
That's what families used to do.
Hundreds of years ago. You needed just little workers.
I know families with 1 or 2 kids that are anxious, and the parents are so stressed. They're trying to do everything and teach everything and never have the kid be bored and all these problems. And they're so worried. It's like, have a few more kids and you'll realize, like, oh, I can just take a pause. Kids should be bored. They're resilient. It's awesome. I can enjoy the moment more because it's so chaotic. I can just enjoy the moment. It's like amazing, man.
Yeah.
Parenting is hard in all the right ways.
You said you have 3? 2?
4.
You have 4 now.
Yep.
You guys gonna have any more?
I got snipped.
Oh,
not my choice. My wife, she's like, all right, 4's good. She got the doctor's appointment for me. I would have gone. I would have kept going.
Yeah.
But that's her call. You know? But we love 4 kids. Like, we're happy with it.
It's a lot of kids.
It's a lot of kids. World. But hey, we love it.
But 5's easier than 4.
I know. That's what I told her. We have these friends, the Johnsons. They've got like 11 kids. And these
11's not easier than 4.
Oh, it's wild. No, they swear that 4 was the hardest.
Wow.
And having 11 is easier than 2. because they're raising each other, they're training each other, they have systems in the home. They finish dinner every night. And the 8 kids that are still in their home are literally doing everything around the house. They call it super quick after meal cleanup party. Everyone has a job and the whole house is clean in 8 minutes flat with music playing and parties. And then they have like fun worship time at night and Bible studies, and they play all these sports. They go skiing together. Every single one of their 11 kids is an extreme skier, world class. Like I was watching the 2 girls and 2 boys do backflips when I skied with them last year at Alta. It was nuts.
What do you think about like financial, just having a lot of kids and the financial, let's call it, burden of that for families that aren't well off?
I think it costs a couple $100,000 to raise a kid in America right now, between $200,000 and $300,000
from like birth 0 to 18.
Yep. With our family economy system, you can almost cut that in half by setting up the gigs, setting up the system, because they go into community gigs right away. And so they're making money in the neighborhood. They're learning all these ways to create value. It's awesome. But I think it doesn't matter how many kids you have. You make it work, right? Like it's not that much money for every single kid, right? Like there's pass downs, there's hand-me-downs, there's like, it's cheaper to have more kids. So I'm not worried about the financial side of it. It's just so many people get so scared to have kids these days.
Oh, yeah.
The money, I'm not ready, I'm not emotionally strong. You're never going to be ready in those ways. Like, this is why people don't get married.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Anymore.
I mean, everyone's getting married in their 30s now, instead of before it was always in your 20s. And, kids and all these things are now like not a priority.
Yeah. I think that's a sad, sad reality.
Yeah.
I think being a parent, like I said before, is hard in all the right ways. It makes you exactly who you wanted to become in the first place, right? Just like sleeping 8 hours is not easy. Working out, eating the right food, not easy. Being a parent is difficult, but it turns you into all of the character traits, all the mindsets that you wanted in the first place. It's such a great training until you've woken up 5 times a night and changed diapers and died for someone else. True selflessness for someone who's fully dependent on you for years.
Yeah.
That's another level of character. That's another level of self-sacrifice.
Right.
It's another level of empathy and selflessness. Like some of this is only learned by being a parent, right? Like it's a joy to do. And as they grow up, man, it's just a blast. It's just a blast. And our culture doesn't prioritize it.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'm just asking the questions because I know there are people listening and watching who think that, and they're like, well, it's easy for you to say if you got money, but kids are expensive, diapers are expensive. And in my mind, I'm just like, it goes back to the root cause of, okay, why is my kid rebellious? Well, it's like, it goes back to the root cause of, if you don't know value creation as a parent,
that's right,
then of course your kids don't know. Why would they know? Yep. That makes no sense.
So much of this stuff, I think people wait to get married and have kids. Deep down, if they really ask themselves the hard question, is because they're worried about maturing. They're worried about innovating and transforming their life, building these skills. So many people are like, oh, I'm not ready. I've had a terrible past. Like I couldn't do it. It's victim mindset at the end of the day.
I'll give you my theory. I've talked about this a lot on the show and just having lots of varying opinions. Single guys who are rich, who are 40 and, like, yeah, I can't find a good woman. I'm like, well, duh, you're 40. Like, what do you think? Bro, the good ones got married. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
And the rest know that you're rich.
Yeah, like, of course it's harder now.
Yeah.
And you got more things going on. You got more responsibilities. You got baggage. You got all these, you've done a lot of wrong in your life now. Like, it's just.
And the older you get, the more solidified in your ways you become.
Oh, for sure. You're less adaptable. You're more selfish. Right. You've been living for yourself for 40 years. Like, of course it's hard. So, but the things you were talking about is, hey, you get married young, you start having kids young, you learn to be selfless earlier on in your life. You have to be. You don't have a choice, or you won't stay married. You will be a terrible parent. Yeah. You have to learn to be selfless.
That's right.
That doesn't happen when you're single.
See, this is why this parenting idea is so critical. We like getting out the entitlement, getting out the laziness, the anxiety, the victimhood. Those things have to be stamped out with our kids.
Yeah.
And if we don't do it in the home, the world's going to teach them all those things in spades. And you do not want to marry that person.
No way.
You do not want to go into business with that person. Like, this is why this is so critical for our future. Like this, I want my kids to be powerful in work, in marriage, in family, in faith. Like this stuff starts around the dinner table.
I think there's going to be the next generation, or maybe it's another generation after Z. Maybe I was just looking this up actually because they were talking about it on Church on Sunday. My kids are called Generation Alpha. I had no idea. So I think that maybe Alpha, I don't know that Z is going to do it, but I think Alpha is going to go back to what it was, where they're going to want to get married early, because I think they're going to see the ramifications of Gen Z. I mean, those kids are jacked up. And then, like millennials and, just this idea of
Gen Z is a little better off
than millennials.
Well, I have a different mindset on this.
Okay.
Maybe I'm a bleeding heart, but I meet so many Gen Zs that care deeply about the world. They're talented. They're tech savvy. They do work hard. They just have had to fight off the cultural norms. Okay. I see such a resurgence of political discussion, like faith growth, conservative thinking. Like there's a lot of this resurgence happening. Mm-hmm. Look at the colleges now, right? Like there's a lot happening. So I don't throw away the whole generation. And maybe that's my thinking here of studying the best families in the world and getting these legacy strategies. It staves off that fourth turning that you probably know, right? Like, Rogan talked about this, but strong men, good times, weak men, bad times, strong men.
Right.
That's
kind of what I'm getting at too.
I know how to jump that. I can go strong men, good times, back to stronger men or women.
I get that you know how.
Right. But that's why I have hope, because we can teach this to families.
I get it. You're trying to prevent what is.
But I also know the stats you're talking about. Like 67% of Gen Z thinks that we're in late stage capitalism. Think about that for a second.
Also, like 70% also have anxiety.
They have anxiety.
The most
correlated. They're correlated.
Yeah, the most was like 20% before. Something extremely. It's like over half of them have anxiety.
Yep.
About what?
41% think they'll never own a home.
You're 20 years old. Like, how do you? What are you worried about?
Yeah,
you don't even have problems yet.
Anxiety comes when capabilities far outstrip confidence in the world. That's how anxiety is created.
So they don't have skills. That's their problem.
No, they have skills. They don't have the confidence to actually put them out in the world and create value. I've never seen anybody who's anxious that's serving somebody else and creating value in the world. It erases it. But when people have, like I see this with teenage girls that we work with all the time, talented, gifted, capable, strong, no confidence. The social media, the bullying, the clicks, the popularity, the body image, it just kills that confidence.
Right.
So they'll never let the capabilities thrive to create value for other people. That's where anxiety comes.
And I get it. And that's why, it sounds like I'm hating on Gen Z, but it's just like the reason I guess I'm pessimistic is because just the stats are the stats. Like, this is where they're at today. And they grew up in this era of social media with comparison.
Yeah.
With, they have more tools than ever.
Right.
But they also have more, comparison than ever.
Yeah. And I think for families listening to this or young people listening, like, the fun thing about stats is that it's a choice to live in them or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that someone listening to this with kids is like, oh, I can choose a different path, right?
Yeah.
I can choose a different way to grow up. Somebody who's listening to this with a business, oh, I can choose a different way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I think you're right. Every generation has its crazy. I mean, look, millennials had that reputation. You and I had that reputation for a decade.
Yeah, but I guess my point, getting back to parenting, was that millennials were the first to wait to get married, and we're starting to now see, as 30-somethings, the problems that poses now.
Yep.
Because we were fed this lie that, hey, wait until you're ready, get financially stable, do this thing, that thing, blah, 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 right? Yep. And then now they're like, why can't I find a spouse? And it's like, bro.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now I don't know that Gen Z will learn from that. Yeah. I think Gen Z will probably, because they're so anxious, because they're so not confident. You can't get married if you're not confident. You're just not going to date.
Yeah, you're not going to meet anybody.
Yeah, so like, I don't know.
Playing Twitch video games in your basement.
That's why I'm saying, like, I think that it'll take a generation to, my kids now, they're 5 years old. It's like, all right, we're going to get to see the fruits of that ideology. Yeah. And I think that they're going to say, yeah, no, that ain't for me, man. I'm not going to end up like Uncle Vinny. Can't find anyone.
Yeah.
At 40.
I would argue we had I heard this a couple weeks ago.
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
Us millennials had the last great childhood. No phones.
Yeah.
No, like you were outside playing.
It was great.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about you. I didn't get my first phone till like, late teenage, almost college.
I was like 13, yeah.
13, okay.
13, 14.
Well, we didn't have that, right?
Well, how old are you?
38.
Okay, I'm 35.
Okay.
So we got them like at the same time then.
Yep. I was going to college, but I had that childhood that was just like free, hanging out, real communication, in person, outside, learning all these capabilities and skills. Like, I think this really comes back to what I said earlier. We just can't outsource our parenting. Like
no.
Every families do this all the time. They outsource faith building to church. They outsource education to school. They outsource character to sports.
Right.
Right. That is not how this stuff is trained. It's at home. You can't outsource parenting. And we try to do that so many times.
Yeah.
I talked to so many families that tried to do all that stuff the whole time their kids were growing up. And then all of a sudden their kids are in their 20s and they cast aside all that stuff.
Dude, I had this, I've said this before, but let's say there are four main things that you can control in your life that you're constantly trying to get better, right? So there's your faith, your spirituality, there is your money, there is your relationships, and then there is your health, right? Those would be like the four core components of life. And it's funny because we spend the most time trying to make money. Like hours-wise, we spend more time working than everything else. Mm-hmm. And it just is what it is for most people. And they will continue because you have to make money to survive. It is what it is. Your health cannot be outsourced.
Yep.
Nobody's going to go work out or eat for you. You have to do it. Your faith cannot be outsourced. Only you can have a relationship with God. Nobody's going to do it for you. Your relationships can't be outsourced. I can't be like, you know what, Scott? I'm going to send somebody in my place and they're going to hang out with you today.
My EA is going to go to
my EA is going to hang out with you. Like, it's all good. They represent me. You can't, same thing like your kids. You can't outsource parenting. You can't outsource my relationship with my wife. That ain't going to be good.
Yep.
So the only thing we can't actually outsource is money.
Yep.
We can totally outsource making money and delegating. We can build business. We can make investments. Money is the only one that does not require you for it to grow and thrive.
Right.
Now it does, you got to learn skills. You got to build the thing. You got to build the machine. And so it's not like you can just get it tomorrow, but in time it can outsource.
That's right.
Whereas the other three will never in your life be outsourced. Yet we always pursue this thing of money.
Yep. And we're chasing it for reasons that we probably went through 30 years ago. Money trauma is crazy, man. I just started talking about this and it kind of spread all over the world. Like how you're raised around money literally dictates so many of your decisions your entire life.
Yeah.
It's wild if people really look at it. And I think that, so here's an example. You're raised with nothing, right? You're raised paycheck to paycheck, family argued over it, struggled with money your whole life. A lot of those parents grow up, have kids, and then want to give them everything. Pay for everything, give them all the experiences, buy them all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they're entitled and spoiled. It's like they teeter-tottered the opposite way.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. If you're silver spoon, grow up, had it easy, like all these things, then you're like, oh my gosh, my kids need more of the tough love. They need more of like the go get it. Like they just teeter-totter every generation. And these money traumas like attack you your entire life. And the things your parents said around money, we can't afford this. Money doesn't grow on trees. You're not worth that, right? Do you know how hard I worked to get you this and you just blew it? You took it for granted?
Yeah.
These are the things kids report to us, like that they hear in the home
Yeah.
all the time. This is why kids say, I don't want to talk about money. Money's the biggest fight in my house,
Yeah.
right? That's what the kids all told us when we did our huge surveys. And so there's all these things that got to be unpacked with us. Like, why are we doing money? Why are we creating money? Why are we creating value to earn money? Why are we working so hard on your life to do this? Like, what is the thinking around this? We have to get to the bottom of this trauma, or else I think money trauma is one of the worst traumas because you're going to wake up every day for the rest of your life and work for that trauma.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that obviously we're trying to solve now with kids so that, you know, they understand value creation and they'll be well more equipped, whether they're entrepreneurs or employees or side hustles or whatever, right? But it also starts with us as parents. So especially for those listening who have young kids, you need to understand value creation and money, you know, and even if your kids are older, you could still learn value creation and money.
That's right.
You can learn that, no, you don't have to be a victim. Like, you control how much value you put in the world.
Yep.
And it starts with what you learn, developing skills, and that, you know, I said this before, but it's like, no, like, our time is not all equal, you know, like, it's just not. You are worth a certain amount of money. Like, the world has already placed a value on your worth of value you're putting in the world. That's like, you get paid based on the value you put in the world. That's just how it works. Now, you know, we're all made in God's image. We're all, you know, seen the same by God. But in terms of how the world values you, like, there's a dollar amount.
Yeah, what we teach kids is, hey, first and foremost, you were created with incredible gifts and talents and skills, and you are invaluable. You are priceless in God's sight. There's nothing you can do to change his love for you and the value he's placed on your life. But God also loves you too much to leave you there. He wants you to go out and create value, train and grow and serve and help and like use the gifts and talents he gave you. Like, just use them. It's a joyful thing to create value for other people.
Yeah.
And so it really is about value. And once a kid learns to create value in the world, it gives them so much confidence for the future. Like, we do these children's business fairs, okay?
Yeah.
We started these like 12 years ago with my mentor out of Texas, Jeff Sandiford. Now there's 2,000 of these children's business fairs all over the world every year.
Wow.
500,000 kids a year go through this. Well, they just make up a product.
Okay. I like
soap,
this.
slime, T-shirts, paper airplanes, and they come to our little fair. You just set up tables in a booth at the local park, and then you bring in a bunch of customers that they invite. They invite their family and friends, and everybody goes and buys stuff from the kids.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. They learn all these skills, like profit, cost of goods, marketing, pitch, sales, like all of this they learn in like two or 3 hours, and they walk away with hundreds of dollars.
Right.
When a kid earns $1 by creating value with something that they did with their own hands and feet, they skyrocket in capability and confidence and the learning. So that's why this is so important. They're not going to fear the future if they go down this route. They're not going to have the wrong relationship with money when they go down this route. See, because with the critics that we get are parents that are like, oh, you just care about money. Actually, no. We are putting money in its proper place. The other parents that criticize us are using money to buy stuff and bribe their kids and buy their love and coerce them. That's what they're using money for. They just don't realize it. So money needs to have its proper place in your mind. It's all God's. God owns everything. We're stewards. And you need to have an open hand view of it, not a closed fist view of it.
Yeah.
See, these are the mindsets around money we got to have or it becomes an idol.
How do you integrate faith with all of this, right? I mean, you and I as Christians are talking about this and we understand this, but how does somebody function without, they're like, I don't believe that. Like, I do believe my money is mine.
Yeah. I mean, so much of what we're talking about is practical wisdom. If you think money is yours, enjoy all those mental health problems. Like seriously, like if you literally live like closed fist, I'm just going to get what I get. It's mine. You're going to live a life of like secret fear,
Right.
secret mistrust. You will never admit it, but you're going to create an idol for yourself that you're just trying to protect and secure at all times. You will not have peace. Doesn't matter if you think you have $50 million sitting in an account and you're living in a mansion by yourself, you will never have true peace.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter from the standpoint of whether you're a Christian or not. Like, you should just not live like that.
No.
Yeah.
Look, the whole point of being a Christian is saying, I choose not to be my own God. I choose not to be in charge of everything. I choose not to be the person I get to serve all day, every day.
Right.
Being a Christian says, you know what? I messed up. There's a God of this universe who loves me, and I'm going to serve him and hand things over to him and trust him. And there's a freedom and a peace that comes from that. You know, people think that Christians are only Christians because it's a get out of jail free card, right? Like in Monopoly, you go pass go, get out of jail free card when you're dead. Like that's the rep that Christians get. I think that being a Christian is not just so God could let us into heaven. Being a Christian is God opened the gates of hell and got us out. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Like it's for this life right now to have freedom and peace and confidence in that stuff. Like I know that money is in God's hands. I don't have to worry about it. Like I don't have fear of people.
Yeah.
I don't have fear of man. Like those things are not in line with a strong faith. The only peace I get is trusting that God has it all under control. Because if I'm in control, it's constant anxiety and fear and struggles and like, no thanks.
Yeah. How do you deal with parenting, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're dealing with chaos every day? You're dealing with fire after fire. You know, you've founded a lot of companies. You've shut down companies. You've sold companies. You know, you've had to, not know how you're going to make payroll the next week because you got to go raise another round. Like you've been in the tech space. How do you handle all that and dealing with 4 kids?
Yeah. Not easy. And I'm not sitting here saying I have it perfect. I'm a practitioner. Like I'm just learning all this stuff. I learned all this stuff about families just because of a hobby. I wanted to learn from the best families in the world just so that my family could get stronger. Right? Because I was struggling. So I'm a practitioner. I'm not perfect in any way, but I think with our family, it's really about time boxing and setting your priorities first, right? Work has to fill in the gaps. Work has to be it's in its own place, right? So here's what I think. Most of the world does this. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Most of the world goes, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to try to be healthy. I'm going to try to talk to my kids and then talk to my wife at the end of the day and then think about God with my last breath and go to bed, right? So it's really, their priorities are work, health, kids, wife, God.
Right.
This is how it's supposed to be. Switch them. It needs to be like God first, spouse, then kids, then health, then let business fill in its proper place in the cracks.
Yeah.
Because then when you have your values and priorities set, somehow business always gets done. It thrives. It's blessed and anointed. And unless you give it a proper place, it will take over everything else.
Yeah.
And so that's what we had to do. It's like family stuff first, our faith stuff first. Like we put our travel into the calendar and date nights. All that goes in there first.
Yeah.
And yeah, I work hard. I work my butt off, but it fills in the cracks of the other priorities.
Yeah. That was the whole point of creating the wealthy way. And, I talk about it in the book, but it's like all these years I decided that, I was just going to work 9 to 5 and that's it. That's the parameter. I'm not going to work on the weekends. That's it. That's the parameter. And we've had success. God's blessed it. Been able to have a great marriage and kids and do fun things, go to Bandon Dunes,
Yep.
I get to do the things I want. And it's not like I only did that after I had success.
Yeah.
That is what produced success.
Yeah.
And I look at, other people who follow to that and like at a extremely high level, a company like Chick-fil-A that just says, hey, these are our values. We're not going to be open Sunday.
Yep.
And we think that God's going to bless that.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they just smoke the competition. It's not even close to, on a per store basis, nobody's even close. It's not even within like 3x.
Yep. Hobby Lobby did the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They stood on business, right, on some of those political issues and how they treated their employees and how they acted, and they just they trampled over like Michael's and Lauren's, all these other like variety stores and dollar stores and arts and crafts stores. Now they've just launched their 1,000th store, over all these years, and they're going to be giving away their $1 billion this year. Unbelievable the culture that gets created when you stand on principle for these
You would think a
things.
company like Hobby Lobby wouldn't be making it. Just like big box, like selling little arts and
It's
crafts.
unbelievable.
Like I am like, how are they still in business? Like it doesn't make sense in today's economy and
It's
world.
a full anointing. I mean, I was there, so I got a tour of the backstage. So David took us in the back. They call it their home store. No one goes in there as customers, but it's the exact layout of the 1,000 locations. Every aisle, every SKU, every product, every book, every plant, it's all perfectly organized with a daily printout. Get this, you would be fascinated. It's a daily printout of exactly what it is, the price, how many were sold yesterday all around the country, the total volume yesterday. They replace all 4,000 every day in their home office in Oklahoma City. And every Saturday for the last 50, 60 years, David Green, who's now in his 80s, he walks through it for hours on Saturday mornings and he just stares at stuff and asks questions to like a few of his like proteges. And then they have like the size of this table. They have a cardboard cutout of the entire layout of the store, which is then copied by all 1,000 stores around America. And he looks around it and he puts little sticky notes on the aisles. Change SKU, move it here, top row here, change this. Like he makes about 20 of those changes every Saturday because he's been a merchant for 60 years. And it is fascinating.
He's like, nobody wants this. Let's make it in a less desirable place. And
It's
then everybody
unbelievable.
wants this. And then he looks at it the next week. And
That's right.
He probably
And
don't even need to look at before what happened. He just
right.
knows.
He
He's
just
like, I knew
knows.
it.
He just knows. It's unbelievable when you get world class at that. And there's little sticky notes that one sticky note triggers an entire event around the entire company, and 1,000 stores change that the next day.
That's crazy.
It's unbelievable to watch. So I don't know how we got on that idea, but I think that is what happens over the long haul when you stand on your principles and your values. My grandpa, I'll share this quick story. We're a little different. I came from, I'm the fourth generation of like a lot of faith heritage, values, success financially, hundreds of millions to billions of dollars that they gave away to ministry, to widows and orphans. Pretty simple. This is going to widows and orphans, not to ruin you guys. And I got half of college paid for, and I was so grateful. And I have a closer relationship to my family now than almost anybody does. They protected our family dynamic and relationship by doing that. He built Interwest Bank, he and my dad, 90 branches, exited to Wells Fargo for over $1 billion. My grandpa was Ronald Reagan's bank chair, okay? They were one of the top small businesses, not just banks, top small businesses in America. My grandpa invented the take 2 hours a week and go serve and we'll pay you for it. Go serve a nonprofit, go help with YMCA, go help in the Boys and Girls, go coach, go help whatever. They invented that in the 60s. And they got all these awards. And so I just watched that my whole life. They just were anointed. They were blessed. They stood on these principles. My grandpa was famous for saying, if you can't get your job done by 5, I hired the wrong guy.
He thinks like I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go home, be with your family, get your principles right.
Yeah.
I've had over 1,000 employees in all my companies. Every failure had a personal thing behind it, personal issue, marriage issue, kid issue, health issue, personal issue. All of my franchisees in Apex that didn't make it, we had a very low failure rate, but every single franchise that didn't make it always had a personal issue that caused that
Yeah.
in their work. So that's why these priorities of like faith and marriage and kids and health need to be set up and growing so that your business can then be anointed and thrive.
Yeah. I agree. It's like, I tell, if you got a marriage problem, it's impossible for that not to affect your work.
You can't even think.
If you're fat, not out of shape, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like you just aren't going to execute at a high level.
Yep. He who has 1,000 dreams, or he who has his health has 1,000 dreams. He who does not have his health has one.
To have his health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like these things, if they're out of line, man, goodbye business. I mean, we're married for a long time. If you're anyone who's married knows this. If you are struggling and you're fighting and you're having a conflict or a problem, it's so hard to even think.
Yeah.
Make a good decision in work or build something. It's like, no way, this is hard. Right? So these things, that's why you got to focus on those things.
How was it growing up? So, I mean, obviously you grew up with wealth. Like, how did your parents balance that with, hey, we have money, so it's not like we're going to just have Scott do nothing. Like, we're not going to not take him on family trips, and he's going to grow up in a nice home. He's going to grow up in an affluent area. I'm sure you went to like private schools and other things. So, like, how do you balance that with, I mean, if it goes back to the gig system, I get it. But like, you personally had to go through it growing up with wealth.
Yeah.
And you seem all right.
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah. I mean, our family, out of everything we've learned, our family did like 35, 45%, like did an awesome job. And I'm a product of that, right? Like I am literally a product of like generations of thinking this way. And my family did an awesome job with a lot of this stuff. I don't come from like, I'm not like the rags to riches, came from terrible, can't believe I got here. But now I get to stand on their shoulders, which is what everyone wants for their kids.
Right.
Right. So I'm a product of a lot of this stuff, but I never got handed I never got handed the fish. We didn't go on crazy trips. Like I was in a normal school, I went to public high school. I did a private, Christian young school, but
yeah,
I was shredding papers in the business at 6 years old. My first business was 8 years old. Like I earned every spot on every team I was on. My parents didn't pay for stuff. We were in a small town, right? And we employed half the town. So I had a responsibility to carry on the Donnell name. And that was not to be spoiled and entitled and a jerk.
But why not go on nice trips and stuff? Was that just something they didn't want to do? Like, are you against that?
No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was just a product of growing up in the 80s and 90s. There wasn't like yacht trips and all that kind of stuff. Like we would go to the lake. We would do normal, cool family stuff. Like I had a great childhood. Like go to the lake. We went to Vancouver. We did a cruise on like a Disney cruise when I was like in teenager. Like, we had fun stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like elaborate everyday kind of crazy things. We had a good home.
Yeah.
But my parents didn't want to leave from all of our close friends that were in the neighborhood. They chose the family of friends that really raised amazing kids together.
Got it.
Right? And I'm living the same way. My best friend lives next door.
Yeah.
And we have kids the same age. We got 12 businesses together. Like I'll never move, man. Like who cares? Like this is important. Like the family you choose, the way you raise your kids.
What you're saying is where you currently are, you don't even want to leave. You don't want to go on vacations and do those things.
Yeah. We love taking our kids to fun stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like they earned Legoland this summer doing all their gigs. So we're going to Legoland in a couple weeks for fall break. But no, like I wasn't spoiled or entitled. Like my parents were very clear. They're like, we created this and our job is to teach you to fish. We love you too much to give you all of the spoils of this to spoil you.
Right. So let's say I
didn't get nothing either. I got some help.
Yeah.
It's just there's a difference between an I love you gift and a coasting gift. That's the line.
Yeah.
When a kid coasts with what you handle for them and pay for them or give them as they grow up, that's a coasting gift. That kills value creation. An I love you gift says, look, your mom and I, or your dad and I, we built this. We love you. We want you to know we love you and share some of these resources. Or we want to give together with you. These are I love you gifts, right? So we've gotten those along the way, but it's never an amount that would make us coast.
Yeah. I guess because there's a lot of people listening, myself included, who do like to go on vacation. So like I'll give you another.
That's a good thing, by the way.
Yeah.
I think experiences are good.
I love experiences. I'm all about them.
I think you should take your inheritance for your kids and spend a lot of it on heritage building, which is experience together and education together and like thinking through heritage. Like, that's the thinking of using your resources for that. You want to know the best legacy move I've seen with grandparents? They would pay for their kids and their spouses to go on a week anniversary trip every year. And so instead of dying, giving them millions, right? They're paying for their kids to go on an anniversary trip every week and taking the grandkids.
Yeah.
That move is awesome.
Yeah.
Right? If you're listening to this and you're a grandparent, I don't know how many grandparents you have listening, but send this to grandparents. It is unbelievable Young parents would love that.
Oh, for sure.
And the grandparents connecting with the grandkids is so good for legacy. Take the money that you would just die and hand over and put it into that kind of stuff. Experiences. Like, I'm all about that, man. Like, Amy and I do great experiences.
Yeah, this is the second time I've brought up this book because it keeps coming up in conversation. But have you ever read a book called Die with Zero?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's somewhat like that, where it's just like, well, first off, don't hand over a bunch of money for the reasons we're all discussing. But also, use that money to create experiences like you're talking about, stories, the things we talk about. Those are far more valuable than the material things and everything else. Like, that's how your kids are going to grow up. That's what they're going to remember. That's what creates heritage. It's not the Lamborghini.
Yep.
It's the experiences. And
it's more about what you leave in your kids than to them. That's the point.
That's a bar.
The experiences, the stories, like that's what they're going to talk about in 30 years.
Yeah.
Right. And then if it's just the money and stuff, I know a lot of people in their 50s and 60s that are trying to wait for their parents to die
to get their stuff.
To get the stuff. And they're fighting over it. And the parents still have 10, 20 years to live.
Oh, geez.
Talk about entitlement.
Yeah, it's terrible.
A lot of parents think that entitlement only applies to children. This happens with adults all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I see this a lot. Like, they're waiting for someone to die. And they won't risk. They won't take that opportunity. They won't start that business. They won't do that job. They won't do that experience because they're going to say, well, it'll happen when I get the assets.
Well, you know what was interesting in my childhood? I would say I was definitely raised entitled, though I didn't turn out that way, which was really hard to believe. But like
I think sports probably beat that out of you, by the way.
Yeah, probably.
Baseball beats entitlement out of everybody.
Yeah, there's so much failure.
Especially minor to major. Like, dude.
Yeah, trust me, I failed so many times that I'm like, hey, this might not work. It's all good. But growing up, like I said, my parents were middle class. But what I didn't realize was they were very bad with money. They were just always spending more than they had. So they're racking up credit card debt. They're racking up all these things. And on the flip side, for me, I got a lot of experiences. So you said you went on a cruise once. My memory is I would go on a cruise every year. Yep. And so we went on a cruise every year. I got a ton of great childhood memories with it. We would go to California for baseball trips. If I needed the new glove or the next bat, they would get me it. They would sacrifice and do those things. And so the way I grew up was, in a way, entitled, but somehow I just had this inner desire to be great no matter what. Yeah. So I wanted to be a great player, great at school. Like, they never had to worry about, like, dude, this kid's not doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. Entitlement only comes from solving all your kids' problems for them.
Yeah, they didn't solve all my problems.
See, that's different. You should take your kids on awesome trips.
Yeah.
Like, every family should take their kid on adventure trips, coming of age trips, like spiritual or service trips, and trips that the kids plan themselves. Those are the types of experiences you want to have with your kids, and do as many of those as you can do.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't go to like big cruises, but we went to Hawaii.
Yeah.
We did mission trips all the time. We would go feed the homeless in downtown Seattle, and that was the most transformational thing I did growing up.
Yep.
And that was the priority for the family. So yeah, I think entitlement only comes when you just solve all your kids' problems for them until they're out on their own, and then they're going to blame you the first time their problems come. Like, that's what happens. That's when you turn from entitlement to victim. Every entitled kid turns into victim adult.
Yeah.
If they don't get that worked. You didn't have your problems all solved for you.
Yeah, and that's
different.
Yeah, and that's also too, you're making me now think about why I didn't end up that way. And I think sports had a thing to play with it, because my dad never went to the coach and was like, why is my son not playing?
Put him in, yeah.
Like, I remember I started to get good when I was like 11, 12 and started making all-star teams and stuff. And so I remember I tried out for my first travel ball team when I was 13 years old, and I was clearly the best player. Like, I just remember this, and I didn't make the team. And it was interesting because I didn't understand why. I'm like, dude, I was like hitting home runs. Like, I don't get it. Now, obviously in hindsight, like, the coach's kid played shortstop and I played shortstop. So
same here, third base.
Yeah.
Coach's kid was at third.
Yeah. Like, so now I understand why, but my dad didn't make this big deal out of it. He didn't, go yell at the coach or badmouth or gossip. He was like, hey, what are we going to do?
That's right.
You going to try out for another team? You're not going to play on this team. What are you going to do?
Yep.
And so I try out for the next team and I make that team. And, that team actually has like 2 teams. One's A team, one's B team. And I make the B team. And I'm like, in my mind, I know it's the B team, but I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm not on the A team. I already got, I didn't make this team. All good.
I'm getting reps.
I'm like, I'm just going to go dominate with what the opportunity I have. And so then, the next year I make the A team and then I'm playing shortstop on the A team. And then we play that old team and I'm freaking smacking those guys because I'm pissed about just this slight. But in no way did my dad solve the problem for me. He's just like, yo, what are you going to do about it?
I had such a similar story in baseball. My freshman year of high school, I got so I was a 580 batting average. I played 14 years of baseball, ended up playing tennis in college instead and went that route.
Yeah.
But I loved baseball, third base. I got the award at the end of the season for making the fat kid on the team look fast. Because I was late to puberty, slower runner. I was really good hand-eye coordination, but like a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
I got that award in front of all of the varsity JVC team families, 200 families. It was crazy. I was like the most embarrassed. That was the award I got with the highest batting average and most RBIs as a freshman. We get home. My mom's livid. Didn't say anything to the coach. Didn't say anything. My dad, I'm just like almost in tears, like embarrassed. And my dad looks at me and he goes, so what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
And I go, I'm gonna be the fastest kid on the team next year. So he goes, okay, follow me. So we lived up in Woodby Island on a little island. So there's beach everywhere. So right in front of our house is Oak Harbor Beach. And he grabs a giant 100-pound log off the beach, drills a hole in it, puts a rope around it and a harness around my shoulders.
Yeah.
And he goes, haul this as fast as you can, 500 yards down the beach and 500 yards back every day, and you'll be the fastest kid next year. And I did it every day. And the next year, I was the second fastest kid on the team, varsity, because of the only kid faster than me was Adam Diaz, who went up do D1 track. Like, but that was the thinking. Like, my dad didn't go cuss out the coach and say, "Oh, woe is me," kind of thing. He's like, "What are you gonna do about it?"
Exactly.
That's such a good. This is why kids need moms and dads.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's such.
Your mom would have caught,
Oh, she'd have hugged me and wrote a letter.
Wrote a letter.
Like, yeah. But
my son batted 580.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, he is the slowest, but still.
Yeah. Kids need moms and dads.
What do you think about mom's roles in the household?
I think they're both critical. I mean,
are you like an advocate for stay-at-home moms?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of families where both mom and dad work.
Yeah.
It's a different dynamic, but they make it work.
Yeah.
In a lot of good ways. I know a lot of families where one of the members stays at home with the kids. I know in my case, like in our family, I wouldn't want anybody else raising my kids than my wife.
Exactly.
Right? Like, she is so nurturing, so kind, so caring. And then like my leadership in the home is just so good together. Right?
Yeah.
Like, my kids see like the leadership, the healthy struggles with me, like, and then with my wife, I don't know, kids need firm, they need kind, they need this balance.
Yeah.
Right? Like, with moms, your boys especially, like, that's your first love is your mom. And they always have that beautiful role. But with dads especially, your sons will follow your example as a dad.
Yeah.
And your daughters will marry it. Like, that's why they're both so critical.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do if my wife wasn't with the kids. It's just like, I don't even know. Like, it's crazy to think like, and I feel for all the moms who have to work because of just income reasons and whatever. And we're single moms. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like, it's just so hard.
And my hat's off to a lot of those moms or dads. I know dads that are single dads working it out.
Right.
And
if I was a single dad, having to raise my kids right, even having money and businesses, I don't know what I would do. I'd be like, man, like, am I going to have to go get a nanny who now has to raise the kids? Because I don't have the capability to go do it. Like, I have to be here.
Right. That's what he's doing. I mean, so my hat's off to parents that are wearing both hats.
Yeah.
But I will say this, like, you have your family you're born with and you have the family you choose. Right. An inner circle is critical for any family. Right. Think about that. Like, who is close in your life? Our friends that are single parents, like, we are jumping in. We're there. They're part of our community. They see us and our wives as like just part of the family.
Right.
So, anyone who's single parenting it, like get other men. If you're a single mom, have other men that you trust and respect, mentor your boys or girls. Like be a part of their life.
Don't take pride in doing it alone.
That's right.
Like seek out help and be open to it.
Both sides, right? Like my buddy, he's calling on the wives of our group. Like, hey, can we help here? Can someone braid my daughter's hair? Like,
I know when my wife, so like getting ready for church, she's like, yeah, just like, make sure Olivia's hair looks good. And then she's like, what did you do? And I'm like, I don't know. Like,
I used a vacuum cleaner to suck it up and
I brushed it.
Rubber.
And it's like, and then it's funny because like you said, they need like coddling and they also need firmness. And so now we're getting to that age where I'll come home and we're at the dinner table and she's like, all right, Olivia, tell dad what you did.
Yep.
I'm like, what did you do? And then I have to hear about it. And then I'm like, why'd you do that? And it's just funny. But last thing I want to say is, so, your company is called Dinner Table.
Yep.
So people can, where can they find it?
Yeah, just dinnertable.com. Or they can go to Dinner Table Family as our social media as a company.
Okay.
And then I think by the time this comes out, I'll have my Scott Donnell page up and running so we can co-post on that stuff. But
okay. And so they, you guys help families with this.
Yep.
So that's where they would go.
Yep. Simple coaching, weekly PDFs, help you implement our 12 to 18 strategies of legacy.
Yeah.
Teach the financial skills, the value creation, the home economy, all these things.
Yeah. So I would have to assume the dinner table is a big part of what you teach in your belief system. Yeah. Like for me, that's why I leave work at 5 because I want to have dinner with my family every night.
Yep.
How important is that?
I think it's being lost.
Yeah, most people don't do
it. 1/3 of all new home furnishings being done right now in America opts out of a dining room table.
What?
1/3 opts out. They're like, we're busy, we got all this stuff going on, or not enough family members.
Like, what happens to the dining room? What is it filled with? It's just empty?
It's empty. It's like a chaise lounge. It's crazy, dude. And I think that the dinner table is where the most important conversations in the world happen.
Yeah.
This does not happen on the dugout. This doesn't happen at the classroom table or the classroom desk.
Yeah.
Happens at the dinner table. And I think we have to take that back. Like nuclear family, dinner table, actually not outsourcing parenting anymore. Mm-hmm. This is how you can transform the world. Focus on your family first.
Yeah.
Like it will be best for you. So that's why we call it dinner table.
And what's crazy is I was thinking about this concept the other day, and it happens to pastors, it happens to entrepreneurs. We start believing this lie that, oh, well, dude, I'm helping thousands of people right now. I have my congregation, I have my clients, and, I'm responsible for, their well-being and success. And then they neglect their family at that cost, right? And biblically, we know that that's wrong.
Yep.
In the Bible, it talks about, hey, if your family is not in order, you cannot lead. You are not fit to lead.
Yep.
Nobody should listen to that person.
Yep.
They don't have authority. It's like listening to a broke person try and teach you how to run a business. Like you have no authority. Yep. You are not equipped.
Where do you think PKs come from? Pastors' kids.
Yeah.
That whole reputation of a PK that went off the rails and went crazy was unfortunately because of that.
And we believe the lie that these other people that we service or serve are more important. And it's like, they're not. They're just not.
Yeah.
You have to take care of what is in front of you, your family. And if that's good, the other stuff gets a lot easier.
That's my problem with social media, by the way. You got all these people, you have no idea what their private life is actually like.
Oh, yeah.
That are saying all these things on social media and they've got all these followers and stuff. And, I was with Brian Covey recently and we were talking. He's an unbelievable guy. His dad wrote 7 Habits.
Got it.
And he's in our private dinner table entrepreneur group. And he basically goes, Scott, I was thinking about this the other day. Never let your influence grow wider than your character is deep. And I went, there are a lot of people on social media that have a wide influence without the depth of character. So my prayer since that conversation months ago was, Lord, help me with character, build my character.
Right.
Before any platform, and ours is recently blown up big time.
Yeah.
And I'm focusing on the character side. because that's critical, especially for our kids. Like those priorities matter the most. Nobody on their deathbed cares if they made another dollar or spent more time at work.
Yep.
They care about the family, the
Amen.
faith. Yep.
Amen. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. I had a blast talking about it. I've learned a lot. So if you did, make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.